Jeff Passan drops another bombshell New York Met trade report in this ESPN article titled Ranking MLB's Top 50 Trade Deadline Candidates. And as we saw in that Alex Bregman video from earlier, go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. Jarren Duran, Bregman's teammate, is ranked as the number 2 player on this trade deadline list, and of course he is considered a fit for the New York Mets, so we'll go over all of that. As you saw in the intro video, Cedric Mullins and Luis Robert are also part of today's video. They were also ranked within the top 30 and are considered fits for the New York Mets, but we already have trade update videos on them previously, so go ahead and check that out if you haven't already to hear a lot in depth about who those players are. So the primary focus for today's video will be Jarren Duran. We're going to go over how he's doing this year, his career, the advanced metrics, what the experts are saying, why Duran would be a fit, and of course we'll close this out with a little bit of Cedric Mullins and Luis Robert, maybe some updates as well on their trade fronts, and it's only going to be on Mets Digest. I'm your host today, Mike Duda. I'll take you through all of it, and you know me, I'm a stats guy, and today's statistic is that 70.2% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed. So please do me a favor, do us a favor here at Mets Digest, and hit that free subscribe button. That way we can bring content to you about the amazing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into this, and we'll start with the statistics, starting with Jarren Duran. And in this article, he is considered to have a 25% chance of being traded, that of course being to any team. A little bit more than Bregman, who was at a 10%, but still not the greatest numbers because he's from the Red Sox. And the Red Sox right now are only 2 games below 500. They are very well in a wild card race. And if the Yankees cool off, or the Rays cool off, or maybe even the Blue Jays, they definitely can overthrow some of those teams in the American League East and make a run for the division. So it's not guaranteed that Duran could be traded. Same with Bregman. In fact, it might not even be likely. So here are the numbers right now for Jarren Duran. A 254, 307, good for a 711 OPS this year. Definitely a down year for Duran when you compare it to the career statistics. An OPS above 750, an above average MLB player. But what I want to look at specifically is 2024. He was excellent in 2024, and that's why he's considered such a big name. We'll hear that from the experts later about how the Red Sox want that 2024 Jarren Duran in terms of the package that they get. But of course, teams that are going out to get Duran, they want to trade for the 2025 Duran. I mean, we go back to the statistics. He's only hitting 254, and he's got an OPS that's barely above 700, only 5 homers and 38 RBIs in about 350 at-bats. So definitely not the best season for Duran. So of course, the teams that are trading for him, they want to trade for that current Duran that's not necessarily as good. But when you go ahead and take a look at the stats last year, they are phenomenal. 48 doubles and 14 triples, led the league in both categories, 21 homers, over 70 RBIs. He was truly, truly something else last year. And batting average around the 290 mark, sitting at 285, 342 OBP, a 492 slugging percentage, 834 OPS, well above 100 OPS plus at 131. He led the league in plate appearances and at-bats like he does this year. He's also leading the league this year in triples. He's a very, very fast guy. 34 stolen bases last year, already 15 this year in 81 games. But the WAR is definitely down, only at 1.4 when it was at 8.7 last year. Of course, he was an all-star in 2024 and finished in the top 10 in MVP voting in the American League. When you go ahead and take a look at the 162 game averages, we already saw this in his career statistics, but a 268 average, 322 OBP, 446 slugging, good for a 768 OPS and a 111 OPS plus. Per 162 games that he's healthy, he's going to average 15 homers and 67 RBIs, which is okay. 44 doubles, which is really good, and 11 triples, which is also really, really nice. But the homer's not necessarily the best. RBIs aren't going to be the best because he's a leadoff hitter. The 31 stolen bases are also really nice. So overall, Jarren Duran is definitely a very, very solid baseball player. When you go ahead and take a look at the advanced metrics, you see he's a pretty good fielder in terms of the arm strength. Surprisingly, his range is really, really bad because when you think of a fast player, you're going to think that guy's range is absolutely incredible. But for Duran, it's not really that good. He's actually in the bottom 10 percentile in fielding range. Arm value, pretty solid. And of course, that arm strength, as I said, is great. And like I was saying earlier, super, super fast. In the top 10% of MLB players in terms of speed, he is quick. He steals a lot of bases. And I thought that would translate to the field, and I think it does. He's definitely quick in the field. It's just his range is not as good because maybe he doesn't track the ball as well. That can be a explanation for that. In terms of the hitting, the average exit velocity is wonderful. He really hits the ball hard, hence a good hard hit percentage, and he's got great bat speed. But other than that, the hitting statistics are really not that good here in 2025. Again, keep in mind the stats are down. So when the stats are down for this year, of course, the advanced metrics are also going to be down for this year. If you compare this to his 2024 advanced metrics, I'm pretty sure the 24 advanced metrics would be a lot better. But let's go ahead and take a look at the descriptions from the experts about Jarren Duran. We're going to go back to Kylie McDaniel and Jeff Passan of ESPN because they, of course, wrote this article. And they say, quote, Duran had a huge breakout season in 2024, posting the 7th best WAR in the majors at 6.7. He overperformed his underlying metrics, though, i.e. had some lucky outcomes. You'd see that when you take a look at the 2024 advanced metrics, specifically on Baseball Savant, and those metrics have regressed a bit this year. We saw that in the Baseball Savant stats that we just saw recently, how the hitting stats are really nothing to write home about. He's got good average exit velocity, hits the ball hard, and he's got good bat speed, but outside of that, it's really not that good. He's a pretty lucky player. To continue with the quote, now he's underperforming them. He has been unlucky. So his true talent is somewhere south of that star level 6.7 figure, but better than the roughly 2 WAR commensurate with a solid regular he's on pace for this season. So definitely not a great WAR that he's on pace for this year. So figure about a 4 WAR player if you're someone that looks at WAR. To move on, let's go ahead and take a look at why the Mets might actually want to go out and acquire him. And for that, we're going to turn to Ethan Hain of Mets Mirais. He says, quote, he's 28, under team control through 2028, and fits David Stearns' profile of targeting young, controllable talent. Not only is he young and controllable, but he's also relatively cheap. Duran right now is on a 1-year deal under $4 million with a club option next season that would be $8 million. So to have a guy, even though the stats aren't that good this year, look at his stats from last year in 2024, and to tell me that you get a guy that good for $8 million a year, I will take that any day of the week, especially given how high MLB contracts are nowadays. And I think David Stearns is under the exact same philosophy in terms of his thinking, because he wants, again, guys that are under control, and he wants guys that are relatively cheap, and you get both of those with Jarren Duran. To continue with the quote, Stearns has consistently prioritized players in their 20s while avoiding long-term commitments to players in their 30s. It remains unlikely Duran gets traded given the fact he's productive, affordable, and under team control, and Boston wants to compete. However, should Duran become available, any contending team with an outfield need should be ready to pounce. Of course, the Mets would be considered one of those teams because even though Jeff McNeil has been playing great out in center field, take a look at his catch yesterday, you can always use an extra outfielder. Sometimes Brandon Nimmo needs a day off. Sometimes you want to put Jeff McNeil maybe at second because he's so versatile. And an outfield of Nimmo, Duran, and Soto is absolutely lethal. Keeps McNeil in the infield. Puts a little bit of pressure on some of these younger guys to perform more because there's less spots to have. So overall, Duran would be a good fit for the New York Mets, although I personally disagree with it. We'll take a look later. But like the quote says, and like Stearns says, he's 28. He's in his 20s. It's not like he's in his 30s, and he's still a very productive MLB player. So let's go ahead and take a look at a potential package that might come the Mets' way if they actually want to go pursue Duran. And while you do that, go ahead and take a look at his career numbers in case you didn't get a good glance earlier. So here is the potential trade for Duran coming to the Mets. It would be a 2-for-1 deal. The Mets get the one player in Jarren Duran, of course, and the Red Sox in return get the number 2 and the number 3 prospects in the New York Mets system in Brandon Sproat and Carson Benj. Remember from our Bregman video earlier today that the Red Sox desperately need pitching prospect depth, and of course getting 2 of the best arms in the Mets system, one of which who is ranked 61 in all of the MLB in terms of prospects, is something that would definitely help out the Red Sox. However, Jarren Duran to the Mets feels, quote, slim according to John Heyman. However, On the other hand, Heyman then later said, a couple of hours later, and this is recent, this is within the past day that Heyman had said both of these, he said, quote, I think Duran is out there. I think the Mets would talk to him. So there's a lot of confusion. Even the experts don't know what they're talking about in terms of, is Duran really getting traded? Will the Mets really go out and pursue it? So let's go ahead and take a look at a Boston Red Sox reporter to try and get some clarification here. And to do that, we turn to Chris Cotillo, the Red Sox beat writer and of course a reporter. He says, quote, I see some of the things people put on Twitter, like what people think they could get for Duran. Like, yes, he has control, and yes, he had an unbelievable season last year, but I think the industry rightly looks at that as an outlier year back in 2024. The Red Sox are going to want a premium for the player that they saw last year. I was talking about this earlier. And teams are going to be wanting to pay for the player they're seeing this year in 2025. And I think that makes it hard to do a deal. I absolutely agree with Cotillo here 100%. And I personally don't want Jarren Duran. I know he would be great. Those stats are really, really nice. But I'm in agreement here with Cotillo that last year was kind of like an outlier. He might be very, very good. But when you take a look at the advanced metrics, you heard the quotes earlier. Duran was a lucky hitter last year. He got a lot of luck that went his way. Hence, he led the league in doubles and triples, and he was just a great player overall. I think that luck is going to wear out. And given the Mets, I mean, that luck is definitely going to wear off. The Mets are a very unlucky team. And I think if Duran, who's a luck-based player, comes over here, that luck is not going to stick. And the Mets are going to end up giving up two massive prospects for a guy that's really not that impressive and a guy that doesn't do that well. Not to say he isn't impressive, but someone that wouldn't be that impressive here in Flushing. I personally don't want Duran for that reason. And also, I think we have enough outfield depth. You saw that yesterday with the robbed home run from Jeff McNeil. I think he's the center fielder, and Tyrone Taylor can be that fourth outfielder. Then you have Nimmo, and then you have Soto at the corner outfielders. You are fine in the outfield. You have plenty of depth. This New York Met team need is catching and bullpen arms. And if you want to go out and get a third baseman, I'm perfectly fine with that as well, because Vientos has been struggling, because Vientos is hurt, and because Mauricio and Beatty and Acuna and all of them have not performed to our likings. So that's it. That's all I want for the New York Mets. Catching, bullpen arms, and if you want to get a third baseman, I'm fine with it. So let's go ahead and talk about some other outfielders that the Mets are rumored to get. And although I originally said I like the Cedric Mullins trade, nope, I don't want Cedric Mullins. Like I said, we have enough outfielders, and the stats on Mullins are not that good this year. We'll take a look at them in just a little bit. And like I said in my Luis Robert video, I absolutely do not want him in any way, shape, or form. We'll go back to McDaniel and Passan of ESPN as they say, quote, Mullins is a 30-year-old center fielder in a contract year who contributes in a number of ways, but his power numbers are trending up this season and are at their best since 2021. Remember, he has been typically a contact hitter. You'll see this in the stats when we go to them. And now he's starting to mold himself into a power hitter. There goes the contact numbers. And the only reason why I would want Cedric Mullins is because he's a contact guy. He's someone that gets on base. And he's starting to not do that because he's translating himself into a power hitter. Absolutely not. No, thank you. Next up, Luis Robert. Robert has been extremely unlucky with ball and play results this season, so that could turn around at any point. He remains a strong defender and base runner, but the 185, 267, 305 line is unsightly, and his trade value has cratered over the past two seasons. Keep in mind, the White Sox have wanted to get rid of this guy this year and last year. He had a pair of $20 million a year club options that the acquiring team will be hesitant to exercise absent a turnaround. We'll go ahead and talk about Robert later because I'm very, very opposed to that. But before we get into that, I'll go ahead and give you the Cedric Mullins stats. Take a look at it. His career at a 249 average is obviously lower because he's only hitting 214 this year. This is a guy that was close to a batting title in his All-Star year in 2021. And now he is just regressing and regressing. The OBP is below 300. OPS barely above 700. No thank you on Cedric Mullins. Doesn't even give you anything defensively. And here is Luis Robert. Nowhere near the career numbers that we typically see from Robert. Look at that, a 257, 310, 764. That's not that bad offensively. And he's hitting 185 this year, 583 OPS, well below 600 for his OPS. He's going to be a $20 million guy. You're going to have to give up a ton of prospects for him, and the Mets want him. The Mets actually want him. Bob Nightingale says the Mets are, quote, keeping close tabs on him. Why? He's not hitting. I don't care what the advanced metrics have to say. If his expected batting average is 250, oh well, he's hitting 185. No, no, no. I do not want Luis Robert on this New York Met baseball team. Go ahead and check out that Luis Robert video if you haven't already. I basically said the exact same things about how I do not want him at all. No. And no on Cedric Mullins. And honestly, no on Jarren Duran as well. The Mets are fine. They have enough outfielders. Like I said, catching, bullpen, and if you want to get a third baseman, go ahead and do that. I'm not opposed. So obviously, I personally have some very heated opinions about these players. I don't want an outfielder for the New York Mets. We don't need them. But let me know down below. Let me know what you think. Would you want Jarren Duran? Would you want Cedric Mullins? Would you want Luis Robert? Do you think the Mets actually need an outfielder? I don't think so. The needs are catcher, bullpen, and maybe a third baseman. That's my personal opinion, but let me know what you think down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Give me a reason why. I'll be sure to respond to your comments. Thank you so much as always for watching. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have for you in today's video. And let's go Mets!